When you inherit billions from oil money, you face a fundamental choice. Buy more yachts and private jets like every other boring billionaire, or transform your wealth into architectural monuments that will outlast your great-great-grandchildren's trust funds. The Getty family chose the latter, creating a collection of properties so spectacular they essentially function as outdoor museums where culture and excess dance together in perfect harmony. From recreating ancient Roman villas with obsessive archaeological accuracy to building modernist temples that hover above cities like benevolent alien spaceships, they proved that unlimited budgets plus genuine cultural ambition can produce something approaching architectural immortality. Their properties span continents and centuries, each representing a different chapter in the evolution from petroleum profits to cultural legacy. While other wealthy families collect art, the Gettys collected entire civilizations' worth of architectural inspiration and made them real. Therefore, in today's episode of Old Money Mansions, we explore the Getty family's extraordinary architectural empire and how oil money became cultural treasure. What happens when an oil tycoon with a classics obsession gets his hands on unlimited funds and a prime piece of Pacific Coast real estate? You get the Getty Villa, quite possibly the most expensive act of archaeological cosplay in human history. Sprawling across 64 acres of primo Pacific Palisades territory, this jaw-dropping recreation of a Roman villa makes Disneyland look positively restrained by comparison. J. Paul Getty built an entire first-century fantasy complete with peristyle gardens, a 220-foot reflecting pool that had to be precisely 17 7/8 inches deep to dodge pesky safety regulations, and enough Doric columns to make Caesar weep with envy. The villa meticulously replicates the buried Villa dei Papiri from Herculaneum. You know, the one Vesuvius turned into ancient Roman jerky in 79 AD. 4 themed gardens showcase over 300 plant varieties that actual Romans would have recognized, because Getty's commitment to authenticity extended to historically accurate horticulture. This ambitious project began brewing during Getty's 1912 teenage trip to Pompeii, festering for decades until his art collection outgrew his original ranch house like a cultural tumor demanding its own palazzo. Enter architects Robert Langdon Jr. and Ernest Wilson Jr., tasked with making ancient Rome happen in 1975's California. The project required 33 separate permits and consultations with archaeologist Norman Neuerberg to ensure every marble detail screamed authentic imperial grandeur. Getty's vision centered on his revolutionary belief that ancient artifacts belonged in ancient-looking buildings rather than sterile modern galleries, a concept so radical it nearly broke the contemporary museum world's collective brain. Here comes the delicious irony. Getty never actually visited his Roman gem. While tourists flocked to experience his architectural fever dream, the man himself died at Sutton Place in 1976, 2 years after opening, having spent more time with his beloved antiquities through photographs than in person. Following a staggering $275 million renovation completed in 2006, the villa transformed from Getty's personal shrine into a world-class educational institution, housing 44,000 ancient treasures. Today's villa operates as the ultimate guilt-free tourist trap. Admission remains free, though parking will cost you $25 because even philanthropic gestures have their limits. The 450-seat theatre hosts productions that would make ancient Greeks proud, while conservation labs ensure Getty's treasures survive longer than the original Roman Empire. Recent drama included the 2025 Palisades fire, which threatened to turn Getty's Roman fantasy into actual ruins before advanced sprinkler systems saved the day, though 1,300 trees became casualties in this modern-day siege. The villa successfully demonstrates how private obsession can transform into public benefit when backed by sufficient resources and genuine scholarly commitment. While Getty's Pacific Paradise successfully merged personal passion with cultural education, his family's architectural ambitions were just getting warmed up. Rising like a modernist Greek temple from a Brentwood hilltop, the Getty Center represents what happens when you give architects unlimited budgets and tell them to create something that will make every other museum weep with inadequacy. Richard Meyer's $1.3 billion monument to cultural ambition houses art while practically levitating above Los Angeles like some benevolent alien mothership dispensing enlightenment to the masses below. This becomes architectural therapy for an entire civilization. 6 interconnected buildings clad in 16,000 tons of Italian travertine glow like ancient ruins designed by space-age gods, creating what may be the most photogenic museum complex ever conceived. The center's hilltop perch offers views so spectacular that visiting becomes an act of municipal voyeurism. Downtown Los Angeles spreads below like a glittering circuit board, while the Pacific Ocean winks seductively in the distance. A sophisticated tram system whisks visitors from parking structure to cultural nirvana, because apparently even enlightenment requires proper transportation infrastructure. This architectural fever dream emerged from Getty's posthumous $700 million gift in 1976, instantly creating the world's wealthiest cultural institution and making every other museum board question their fundraising strategies. The Getty Trust launched an 18-month global architect hunt that resembled a cultural version of The Bachelor, with 33 architectural superstars competing for the ultimate prize. Meyer triumphed over legends like Frank Gehry and Robert Venturi, proving that sometimes the most obsessively perfectionist architect wins the biggest commission. His design philosophy of integrating nature and culture sounds perfectly reasonable until you realize it required moving mountains, literally, to create building sites that appear to grow organically from geological ridges. Meyer employed 2 intersecting grids, following both freeway patterns and natural topography, creating what he poetically described as 2 outstretched arms, embracing the complex like a very expensive architectural hug. Construction demanded travertine panels custom fabricated to Meyer's exacting specifications, and seismic engineering sophisticated enough to protect priceless art from California's geological tantrums. Since opening in 1997, the center has attracted 1.8 million annual visitors who come for everything from Van Gogh masterpieces to Robert Irwin's Central Garden, where 500 plant varieties create living sculpture that changes with seasons. The Getty Research Institute has welcomed nearly 1,500 scholars from 50 countries, conducting research on themes ranging from repair to whatever cultural crisis needs academic attention next. Today's center operates multiple cultural missions simultaneously, displaying world-class art, funding international conservation projects, and conducting scholarly research that influences cultural policy worldwide. The galleries showcase collections spanning medieval to modern periods, with natural light carefully controlled through Meyer's signature white walls and precisely positioned skylights. Educational programs include everything from family workshops to digital initiatives that bring Getty resources to audiences who can afford Los Angeles parking fees. The complex houses the Getty Conservation Institute, Getty Foundation, and Getty Research Institute, creating a comprehensive cultural ecosystem that extends far beyond traditional museum functions. Yet even this mountain-moving achievement paled beside the intimate political theater the family would create in San Francisco's most rarefied neighborhood. In San Francisco's Pacific Heights, where real estate prices make grown billionaires weep and architectural ambition knows no zoning limits, the Getty family created the ultimate political playground disguised as a private residence. This 5-story Italianate monument celebrates the beautiful marriage of old money and new power, where California's political elite gather to decide your future over champagne that costs more than most people's cars. Gordon and Ann Getty systematically acquired 3 separate estates and merged them into one sprawling mega-mansion, proving that sometimes architectural greatness requires thinking beyond pesky property lines. The result commands Golden Gate Bridge views so spectacular they practically qualify as a human right, though only about 12 people in San Francisco can actually afford to exercise that right. Anne Getty's maximalist interior design transformed domestic space into something approaching a Medici palace, where every room doubles as an art gallery and every conversation carries the weight of political consequence. The Italianate architecture features ornate decorative flourishes and symmetrical proportions that suggest serious money without quite screaming nouveau riche, a delicate balance that requires both taste and exceptional financial advisors. This architectural showpiece emerged from Gordon and Anne's patient vision of combining serious art collecting with serious political entertaining, because apparently democracy works better when conducted in really beautiful rooms. Anne Getty, a trained interior designer with the kind of aesthetic confidence that comes from unlimited budgets, orchestrated interiors that balanced museum-quality grandeur with actual livability. The design philosophy embraced maximalist decoration as high art, creating spaces where priceless paintings coexist with comfortable seating, a surprisingly difficult balance that most wealthy people never achieve. Integrating three separate properties required architectural surgery so sophisticated it makes hospital transplants look simple by comparison. The mansion's political heyday transformed it into California's unofficial Democratic headquarters, where fundraisers for figures like Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom generated enough campaign cash to fund small nations. These gatherings became strategic meetings where political futures got decided over multiple courses prepared by chefs whose names alone commanded respect. The property achieved peak international fame during Ivy Getty's 2021 wedding, where Nancy Pelosi officiated a ceremony that attracted more media attention than most royal events. Anne Getty's death in 2020 marked the end of an era, though her legacy lives on through Christie's record-breaking auction of the family's art collection, which generated over $150 million for Bay Area cultural organizations. The auction included works by giants like Monet, Picasso, and Diebenkorn, demonstrating how private collecting can ultimately serve public cultural institutions. Today's mansion continues operating as both private residence and occasional political theatre, where charitable fundraisers maintain its status as a gathering place for California's power elite. Security arrangements have been enhanced following a 2024 break-in, proving that even the most exclusive neighborhoods face reality's inconvenient intrusions. The Italianate facade features elaborate window treatments, decorative cornices, and the kind of substantial stonework that suggests permanence in a city known for seismic activity. But the Getty family's taste for grand statements extended far beyond American shores, reaching toward England's most historically saturated architectural traditions. The world's richest man lived in a 72-room Tudor palace that once hosted Henry VIII, yet he installed a pay telephone for house guests because apparently even billionaires have their limits. Welcome to J. Paul Getty's magnificent madness at Sutton Place, where extreme wealth met extreme paranoia and produced one of history's most entertaining examples of rich person logic gone completely sideways. This 16th-century Surrey gem served as Getty's fortress of solitude from 1959 until his death in 1976, transforming a legitimate piece of English royal heritage into the nerve center of a petroleum empire run by a man who counted every penny while owning half the world. Built in 1525 for Sir Richard Weston, one of Henry VIII's favourite courtiers before becoming another casualty of royal mood swings, Sutton Place represents Tudor domestic architecture at its most sophisticated. The red brick construction features elaborate decorative patterns and ornate chimney stacks that suggest both permanence and power, architectural qualities that apparently appealed to Getty's deep-seated need for historical legitimacy. 72 rooms sprawl across manicured grounds that could house a small village, creating the kind of grandeur that makes Downton Abbey look like a modest weekend cottage. Getty purchased this architectural treasure in 1959 for £840,000, seeking both tax advantages and the kind of aristocratic credibility that American oil money could rarely buy at home. His motivations mixed practical business considerations with genuine affection for English gardens and what he imagined was a more refined European lifestyle, though his legendary frugality often clashed spectacularly with proper estate maintenance. The mansion required extensive modernization to meet Getty's security-obsessed standards, including surveillance systems that would make MI6 jealous, and of course, that infamous pay telephone that became symbolic of his complex relationship with money. Design principles emphasized preserving Tudor authenticity while incorporating 20th-century conveniences, though Getty's penny-pinching often resulted in repairs that looked like band-aids on Baroque architecture. Sutton Place's heyday coincided with Getty's emergence as the world's wealthiest private citizen, when the estate served as both business headquarters and refuge from increasingly intrusive media attention. His staff included Francis Bullimore, the benevolently despotic butler who had previously managed households for Joseph Kennedy and Henry Ford II, bringing professional expertise to the challenging task of serving a boss whose frugality bordered on clinical. The property gained international notoriety during the 1973 kidnapping of Getty's grandson Paul, when the grandfather's initial refusal to pay ransom generated headlines that forever linked Sutton Place with family dysfunction played out on a global stage. The Tudor architectural elements include mullioned windows, elaborate brick chimney stacks arranged in decorative clusters, and the kind of substantial timber framing that suggests medieval fortress construction adapted for Renaissance comfort. Getty's death at Sutton Place in 1976 ended an era of magnificent contradiction, though his ghost reportedly still haunts rooms where paranoia and petroleum profits created one of history's strangest domestic arrangements. Today, Sutton Place operates under Russian oligarch Alisher Usmanov's ownership, though its Tudor architectural elements remain protected, ensuring that future generations can marvel at how great wealth can both preserve and complicate historical architecture. From this English monument to mixed priorities, the Getty legacy would find its most successful expression in a Buckinghamshire estate where culture finally triumphed over eccentricity. In the rolling Chiltern Hills of Buckinghamshire, where ancient beech forests meet cricket pitches so perfect they make Lord's groundskeepers weep with professional envy, the Getty family finally discovered what unlimited wealth was actually meant to accomplish. Wormsley Estate represents the ultimate redemption story, how a dynasty built on oil and eccentricity eventually learned to transform filthy lucre into genuine cultural magnificence. This 2,700-acre playground for the aesthetically enlightened proves that when rich people really apply themselves, they can create something approaching actual civilization. The estate sprawls across some of England's most scenic countryside, where carefully managed woodlands frame parkland that looks like it was designed by God during a particularly artistic mood. Wormsley's crown jewel remains its cricket ground, built to international standards with a pavilion that makes the average country club look like a garden shed. Because apparently, when Gettys decide to do something properly, they commit completely. The library houses one of Britain's finest private book collections, proving that money can indeed buy intellectual respectability if you're willing to invest in sufficient quantities of leather-bound wisdom. Garsington Opera's venues transform summer evenings into cultural experiences so magical they make Covent Garden look positively pedestrian by comparison. Sir Paul Getty purchased Wormsley in 1985 as part of his mission to establish the kind of deep English roots that American new money typically spends generations trying to achieve through strategic marriages and careful accent acquisition. Unlike his penny-pinching father's approach to property ownership, Sir Paul embraced a vision that balanced preservation with innovation, creating cultural institutions that would serve purposes far beyond family ego. The estate's development required the kind of patient, long-term thinking that usually eludes people who make their fortunes in petroleum extraction and international tax avoidance. Design principles emphasized harmony between historical architecture and contemporary additions, ensuring that cricket pavilions and opera houses enhanced rather than dominated landscapes that had been shaped by centuries of agricultural tradition. Wormsley's cultural heyday intensified under Mark and Katerina Getty's stewardship, transforming a private estate into one of England's premier destinations for people who appreciate both sporting excellence and artistic achievement. Cricket matches featuring international celebrities and business titans created a social calendar that bridges traditional English sporting culture with contemporary entertainment, proving that some forms of networking actually improve civilization. Garsington Opera's relocation to Wormsley marked a watershed moment, bringing world-class operatic performances to purpose-built venues that rank among Europe's most beautiful outdoor cultural spaces. The cricket ground features drainage systems that rival space-age technology, turf management that approaches horticultural science, and spectator facilities that meet international broadcasting standards while respecting the rural Chiltern Hills setting. Distinguished guests include British royalty, international politicians, and cultural figures who understand that Wormsley represents something approaching the perfect integration of private wealth with public cultural benefit. Today's Wormsley operates as Mark and Katerina Getty's private residence while maintaining its broader mission as a cultural institution that demonstrates how great estates can serve purposes beyond mere residential grandeur. Through 5 magnificent properties spanning 2 continents and multiple centuries, the Getty family ultimately created an architectural legacy that transforms private obsession into lasting cultural treasure, proving that even the most eccentric billionaires can occasionally achieve something approaching immortality through really excellent real estate decisions. And now we'd like to see you in the comments below. Which Getty property surprised you most? Thank you for watching another episode of Old Money Mansions, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.